Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our channel Inside Angle and to our new series of the Upper Edge. So, in this episode 2, we have with us an amazing intellectual panel. So, we have with us Akshat Goyal, who secured All India rank first position in the May 19 exams of CA Intermediate, and he secured near perfect marks of 98 in tax. We also have with us Akshay Jain, who secured All India rank first position in November 19 exams of CA Intermediate, securing a stupendous 94 marks in tax. And we also have with us Shreya Tibrewal, who secured All India rank first position in November 20 attempt and again scoring an amazing marks of 88 marks. So let's just jump right into this subject of tax and unsolve all its mysteries and know how these people manage to score such great marks in this subject. So over to you, Divesh.
Thanks, Pramar. So my first question is, given the huge syllabus of tax, I want to know from all of you, what was the study material that you used to study tax, that is both DT as well as GST, and how much importance would you attach to the classes so far as tax is concerned? That is, how much did your classes help you in getting a grip over the subject? So starting with you, Akshat.
Yeah, so regarding study material, initially I had a lot of study material. Like I had my class notes, I had my book from the coaching institute, I had the study mat, Outgoes PM, a lot of things. But eventually we have to decide what we have to follow. We cannot do everything. So I, in the end, stuck to the institute study mat plus a bit of my copy where I'd explain things summarized in better. So I stuck to the study mat. In fact, in the GST case, I stuck only to the study mat because it's actually very good. The institute mat is actually very good. Even in case of DT, it is quite self-explanatory. And regarding classes, I would say tax is sort of subject that requires a bit of guidance and is actually new to us. Because every taxation law is not made in a void; it is made with a context, historical context. So unless we understand what circumstances this was enacted, we won't be able to understand it properly. So for that, we require a teacher.
Perfect, perfect.
And
what about you,
the
Akshat?
concepts are so interlinked, especially in DT, we cannot just move straight. We have to have a guidance to manage it interlinked.
Certainly. Yeah. You require guidance for the interlinking part. Correct, correct. What about you, Akshay?
I stick to the class. I stick to the class notes. The teacher that gave us the notes, he was very good at it. So I stick to the notes. I stuck to the notes, and then in the end, in the the prep leave, the last month or so, a couple of us got together and we skimmed through the module. Some portion someone doing and some other portion someone else doing, and then if there was something new in the study material, we included those things in our notes. And in the last day, on the last day, I just had a single notebook, 150 pages or so. Entire DT was covered in that. And for GST, I stuck to the study material. It is very good, the study material.
Perfect. And what about you, Shreya?
Yeah, actually, Akshay and I had the same teacher. So, I also stuck to the class notes which were prepared in the class itself. They were covering almost each and every portion. For the topics where I felt I'm still not understanding, I used to skim through the textbook and add on some points if there were. And for GST, I stuck to the module and used to make certain charts where it was required, like in exemptions chapter. There are a lot of interrelated exemptions, so they could be covered in one go.
Perfect. So what I can draw from the talk is that GST mein kahin na kahin the module is much more self-explanatory. In fact, both the modules are self-explanatory, but in case of GST, the module can be used as a sole source and can be completely relied upon. In case of DT, given the hugeness of the syllabus, somewhere you can rely on your class notes and supplement it using the module. So you can also use the module and incorporate those points that are not in your class notes in your class notes itself, so that on the last day before the exam, it becomes easier for you to study. Over to you, Brahma. Next question.
So, given the fact that tax is an entirely new subject for us in Inter, I would believe, and also it is inherently one of the most important subject, not just in CA IPCC, but also in CA finals and as well as lifelong throughout our journey as a CA professional. So, Akshay, what did you do to gain that conceptual clarity in this subject?
As Akshat said that some laws have historical context to them. So for conceptual clarity, I stuck to the whatever they taught in class to me. It was very good because I did not know anything about it, and the study material does not have any historical context as much. So they taught us in class that, so it was very helpful in gaining the knowledge that why this law came into existence. Or if you get the understanding, so learning it becomes easy.
Definitely. What about you, Shreya?
Yeah, I think he has summarized it completely.
Anything to add on, Akshat?
Yeah, one thing I would say that often when we go through the provisions, हम एक बार उसको बस ऊपर से निकाल देते हैं, पर टैक्स में रिक्वायर्ड हम उसको डीपली अंडरस्टैंड करके अच्छे समझे, क्योंकि इंस्टीट्यूट आजकल बहुत इन डेप्थ जाके क्वेश्चंस बनाता है. अगर हमने ऊपर से निकाल दिया कुछ चीजों को और उसमें से इन डेप्थ क्वेश्चन आ जाते, तो काफी अच्छे से पढ़ना इन टैक्स काफी इम्पोर्टेंट.
Okay. So basically, to gain that conceptual clarity, I think somewhere we have to go beyond the study material also, and like classes somewhat become mandatory and going through the history of the provisions, not just for getting the conceptual clarity to crack the exams, but which will help us in the profession as well, I believe. So over to you, Devesh.
Yeah, my next question is, how much emphasis would you all put upon practicing the sums yourself versus auditing the sums as such, given the number of sums that we have? Starting with you, Shreya.
Okay, so for direct tax, especially, I would recommend that we solve the questions on our own. Like the most dreaded question is the first question, which comes for the total income calculation. So in that, what happens if you're given the individual adjustments, we're able to crack it, but together we are not able to. We keep on missing something. So practicing while through writing would help us solve those questions. For some questions which are more theoretical, and maybe you just need to code the provisions, for that auditing is good enough. But for the questions where you need to calculate something, you need to practice until you get a grip.
I would agree with that.
What about you, Akshat?
For the comprehensive questions of total income, we do need to practice, because otherwise we would definitely miss something. But we cannot end up doing every sum of that. We have to somehow get ourselves used to auditing those sums also, because there are so many sums you're going to get to solve. You cannot do everything on paper. So just do some of the questions on paper to get confidence and get used to auditing them also.
Akshay, what about you?
I'm all for doing the sums on your own and not auditing them, because if you audit them, if you miss a provision when you're doing it for real, so if you were auditing the sum and if you see adjustment, then you will be like कि ये तो हाँ मुझे आ जाता, पर अगर सच में वो कर रहे हो तो वो शायद नहीं आता तुम्हें. तो अगर सम खुद से करोगे तो ही पता चलेगा वो. And for all the subjects, I'm not at all for auditing sums. Do it in rough, but it doesn't matter, but do it.
Correct. So I think there is no particular approach, or there is no particular number कि इतने percentage आपको audit करना है, इतना percentage you have to solve it self. Probably you have to decide basis the confidence that you have on your own कि I'll be able to do even if I audit. But then needless to say, practicing a particular percentage proportion is mandatory. There is no doubt upon that. Now, what is that that percentage is supposed to be is something that one needs to decide for yourself. But practicing there's no way out to practicing sums. We need to do that. What do you propose?
Just a point here that I've given IPCC and final as well. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of practice in IPCC level. So it's a fact that कहीं ना कहीं वो final में ना उतनी ज़्यादा practice and उतनी ज़्यादा consistency से practice नहीं हो पाती है. We have internships, we have articleships going on, then study leaves are small. So I think कहीं ना कहीं जो अपन ने IPCC में जितनी practice की होती है, and given the fact that it is a foundation base, first step once a tax bent, basically we try to understand that how we approach a problem. एक problem आती है तो उसको हम solve कैसे करना चालू करते हैं. So at this stage, I think practice is something very important.
Correct. Yes, Rama, your next question.
So next question is for you, Akshay. So how did you balance between the direct taxation and GST during your study leaves? How much importance did you give each of them?
So in the study leaves, what you do in the study is actually quite important, because as I said, you have a lot of material available with you at that point. So you have to decide what to follow. Now, if you decide to go with study mat, just stick with it. If you decide to go with your class notes, stick with that. You have to decide at that point कि मुझे कौन सा material से पढ़ना. In fact, अब मैं questions जो इतने सारे questions होते हैं, you have to cross out certain questions that you think are not worth doing. You have to take mark those questions that are worth doing, so that ये सब काम स्टडी लीव में हो सकता है, क्योंकि बाद में 1.5 दिन में अपन सब कुछ नहीं कर सकते. तो स्टडी लीव में डिसाइड करने का है कि हमें क्या क्या करना है, क्या क्वेश्चंस करने हैं, क्या नहीं करना है. इनफैक्ट समराइज अगर हमें करना है तो वो भी उस स्टेज पे होगा कि अगर मुझे बुक की समरी फॉलो करनी है जो पीछे है तो मैं उसको अपडेट कर लूँ, मुझे खुद की समरी बनानी है तो मैं स्टेज पे बना. And talking about DT and GST, you would realize GST काफी ज्यादा simple and shorter as compared to DT. तब भी वो 40 मार्क्स देता है अपने. So GST पे कॉम्प्रोमाइज, मतलब GST पे और बहुत जल्दी हो जाता है. तो इन दी स्टडी लीव्स एंड आप कंपैरेटिवली DT से 30-40% टाइम में GST को मैनेज कर सकते.
Okay. How about you, Akshay?
Yes, it is very important that you find out what study material are you going to use starting से, because you cannot like move around study materials. पहले इससे किया फिर बाद में उससे किया. Stick to the study material that you are going to use for the entirety of the preparation.
Okay. You agree with them, Shreya?
Yeah, totally. And one more thing is ki if you stick to one study material, like in my case, I stuck to my class notes for DT for suppose. So, till the time the exams arrived, I was in such a position that I used to literally, remember the page and how I've written the answer, or maybe how the flow chart seems. So that brings in a different level of confidence, which will get you through even the difficult questions.
Definitely. So I think we can come to a conclusion here that it is very important to have a single source of material throughout your study leaves. So it does not only helps you to manage all the entire course in that 1.5 days, it also adds to your that picture skew memory with the Shreya was talking about, and it is really, really helpful. So next question over to you, Divesh.
It is my next question is in continuation of this particular question only. So particularly in that 1.5 days before exam, how did you guys manage the entire course, and how did you all particularly balance between DT and GST the day before exam, as well as during those 3 hours of exam? What did you attempt first? What did you attempt next? That is what I want to know. And Akshay, going with you first.
So as Shreya said, we had the the DT notebooks. So it was very easy for me to revise DT because it was just 150 or so pages, and the picture is thing. I didn't know that when the provisions were, where the provisions were, the flow chart flows and everything. So it was very helpful in revising DT, and I did the the total computation sums the day before exam. And GST, the modules, it was very easy to go through the modules because GST is smaller than DT.
Correct. What about you, Shreya?
So for this, I like to add on ki in GST, what I did ki for each chapter, they provided summary after each chapter, and that summary is really exhaustive. You can just add on few points which are left. There are really less points which are left, and then you can revise through the summaries which is provided in the textbook. For DT, we had the class notebook. And with respect to the exam time, I started with DT because I have a habit of starting from question 1. So I started with DT. After some time, I realized the first question was quite difficult in our attempt. So it took me some time. So after that, I realized it is already 1.5 hours. So then I started with GST, completed it in 30 minutes, and then jumped on to DT back again, because we have to answer in different supplementaries. So you can use this strategy maybe.
And Akshat, what about you?
Yeah, regarding the exam 3 hours, I would say what I used to do was I started with GST because it was simpler and it was shorter. So I could just complete it in 40-45 minutes and then move on to DT, which took a longer time and a lot of thought. And around whenever I was around 2 hours was completed, then I took up the MCQs. And in my time, MCQs used to be a bit simpler than they are today. So I could finish them in 15-20 minutes. At that time, those were of the kind. So that I started with GST because it just gives you the confidence that you have completed a larger part in a shorter time.
And also, you can use the beginning 15 minutes to cover the MCQs. It becomes very easy because if you use the beginning 15 minutes, you'll at least cover 12 to 15 marks of MCQ. Or फिर वो pressure कम हो जाता because then you have like full 3 hours for 80-85 marks.
Yeah, but then Akshay, I think ICI has changed some rules, and now in the first 15 minutes you don't get the MCQ booklet. So I think you're left with no option but to go with the subjective first. Yeah. So I think what I can make out of the obviously it is just changed recently. So what I can make out of the entire talk is that one thing you have to be sure is how much time you have to allocate to both DT and GST in those 3 hours of exam, regardless of what you attempt first. So in my case, what I had done at that point of time was I knew somehow even if I attempt GST towards the end, I'll be able to cope up with my speed because kahin na kahin GST mein I know what I have to write. I don't have to think as much as I have to in DT. So in my case, I had attempted DT first because I knew I'll be able to cope up with GST. But then again, like Shreya said, kahin na kahin itna ghus bhi nahi jana hai DT mein that you are not able to attempt GST because somewhere that is a little bit more scoring. So you have to set timelines for each of the part and you have to decide accordingly. You have to make sure you stick to each timeline. Also, you have to make sure you keep a dedicated time slot for the MCQs, whatever you decide for yourself. So I think that is the most important. And regarding the day before exam, like each of them said, if you have your source decided till the day before exam, if you have the source decided already, then it becomes very easy to cover each of the DT as well as GST the day before exam. So itna matlab we don't have to create that mental thing कि नहीं हो पाएगा नहीं हो पाएगा. It is very much possible as three of them rightly said. Next question, Brahma.
Okay, so Shreya, how did you prepare for the MCQs? Did it require some specific efforts? And how did you tackle them during those 3 hours of exam?
Okay, so if we go through the MCQs during the starting period of my study leave, we did not realize that the DT questions are going to be the DT MCQs are going to be very tough. But then ICI released their RTPs, and in that they had asked total income full questions for just 2 marks of MCQs. So at that time, we all realized we will have to prepare for MCQs in a different level. So before that, the strategy was going through the provisions and just as preparing for the subjective questions. But after realizing that the questions have gone up a level, we had to practice a lot of MCQs. Some were provided on the ICI's website. They had uploaded few for us to practice. Some through classes, notebooks, and there is obviously the module MCQs.
How about you, Akshay?
Now, I would like to add that while attempting the MCQs, it's very much necessary that we are very alert. Because MCQs में वो बहुत सारे कंसेप्ट मिक्स करते हैं जो एकदम छुपे हुए होते हैं, हमें दिखते नहीं है. तो if we are not alert, हो सकता है हम एक कंसेप्ट लगाएं दूसरा ना लगाएं और हमारा ऑप्शन हमें MCQ ऑप्शन से मिल जाएगा, क्योंकि इंस्टीट्यूट वाला फोर्स ही करता है उसने ये सोचा तो ये ऑप्शन, ये सोचा तो ये ऑप्शन. सो उस समय अलर्ट होना बहुत जरूरी है कि हमने उसकी एज मिस कर दी, हमने सीनियर सिटीजन मिस कर दिया, हमने उसकी नॉन रेजिडेंट मिस कर दिया. ये इस टाइप की कुछ भी चीज हम अगर मिस कर देंगे छोटी सी, तो उस केस हमारा ऑप्शन मैच हो जाएगा पर फिर गलत हो जाएगा.
Yeah. So you agree with them, Akshay?
Completely agree with them, yes.
Yeah. So I think we can conclude here that the MCQs are not a piece of a cake. So ICI does set some good level of questions in the MCQ as far as MCQs are concerned, and also the options devised to trick you. So definitely tackling the MCQs would require some kind of effort on your part and also some kind of practice. So like moving on to the next question, Divesh.
And in fact, before we move on to the next question, I would like to add that recently, in fact, in 2021, ICI has released the MCQ booklets for each subject, both for intermediate as well as final, which becomes a very very good source of your preparing and practicing MCQs, which is a very holistic material that they have released for us, probably which is a collection of all the previous RTPs and a bit more MCQs. So I will suggest from my end that everyone should go through those MCQ booklets and practice all the MCQs. And also one thing that they can do is the day before exam, we cannot go through each and every MCQ. So what we can probably do is make a summary of those MCQs, the good points. So like yes, Akshat said, we should make sure that we pay attention to the details. So probably one could make sure the checkpoints, check the residential status, check the age, probably something like that. I mean, you can prepare a summary for yourself so that you don't miss out on those points while solving those MCQs. And obviously 100% concentration is very much required. Next question I would like to ask is to Akshat and then to the other two. Having got such good marks in the paper of taxation, I want to ask you all, what is it that probably you guys think that you did differently that helped you get such good marks? And what is it that you will like to guide your juniors so far as the paper of taxation is concerned?
I would say that it was not something...
Akshat, starting with you.
Yeah, I would say it's not something very specific differently that I did. It was just what we had been told to do. Everyone was doing that only. But I would suggest a few things. First, I said be alert in the taxation paper, specifically taxation. Keep a concept very clear. And third, do make all the working notes. Because आपने कुछ भी अमाउंट ऐड किया है, ऐड नहीं किया है, लेस किया है, लेस नहीं किया, हर चीज का एक्सप्लेनेशन नीचे देना है, हर चीज के नंबर होते हैं. कभी भी किसी चीज पे डाउट हो, ऑल्टरनेटिव देके आ जाओ. मैंने बहुत पेपर में बहुत सारे ऑल्टरनेटिव्स दिए, तो ऐसे रहता है. इनफैक्ट ना मेरे पेपर में जब मैंने पेपर खत्म किया, आई वाज इन डाउट इन एवरी क्वेश्चन, एवरी सिंगल क्वेश्चन डीटी आईडीटी, कि हर क्वेश्चन में एक एक पॉइंट तो गलत होगा ही. अब ना किसी इनफैक्ट इन सिंगल क्वेश्चन मुझे पूरा कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं, बट प्योर थ्योरी क्वेश्चन में भी ऐसा था कि शायद मुझे सारे सही नहीं लिखते हैं. तो आई डिड व्हाट सीम्ड बेस्ट एट द मोमेंट, व्हाट सीम्ड करेक्ट एट द मोमेंट, and it luckily worked out. What I did seem went out to be correct.
You hedged your risk perfectly by giving alternative solutions. Yeah, moving on to Akshay, anything that you have to add?
I totally agree about providing alternatives. I did give alternatives in the total computation income sum. It is very helpful to give alternatives. And one more thing, I learned most of my DT by committing mistakes in the class. Matlab, whenever he used to teach us sums, he also used to give us some sums for practicing in the class. तो मतलब फिर वहाँ पे wait नहीं करना है कि teacher करेगा उसके बाद हम copy करेंगे. I used to do the sums पहले से, मतलब while he was telling us all of that. So what helps in doing this way is, if you make the mistake there, then you'll remember it later. मेरे साथ DT में तो मैंने ऐसे ही learn किया पूरा DT, मतलब by committing mistake. I remember those mistakes later.
Perfect. So that make mistakes beforehand so that you don't make mistakes in the exam. What about you, Shreya?
Yeah, I followed the same strategy as both of them. And one more thing is that repeated revisions will help you a lot in remembering and correlating the DT provisions. Secondly, one thing is I used to remember the section for each and every provision. So rather, other than giving me confidence, what it helped me to do is I could do revision in my mind. I would start with section number 7 and I'll go like, okay, 7 is this, 8 is this, 9 is this. And it was a very quick revision to do. So that was one thing I did.
Certainly. So probably remembering sections is not mandatory, but then it is always preferable if you can remember sections. It will obviously help you to remember the content of the sections as well. Moving on to the next question, Brahma, time for the unique question.
Yeah, before moving on to the next question, I would say that I completely correlate with Akshay. So I think DT is a subject in which you definitely learn by committing mistakes. And I think it is a very important subject, tax that is. And I think हमारी भी जब IPC क्लास होती थी तो we used to make sure कि एक प्रोविजन को we used to analyze from every angle, मतलब every damn angle. तो हमारे साथ ऐसा होता था कि क्लास होती थी, उसके बाद we used to get time 10 to 15 minutes to ask doubts to the teacher. So we literally rushed on to the podium every time after the class to think about every possible doubt that we can have. मतलब we used to take pride अगर कुछ अपन ने ऐसा doubt बना लिया जो सर को time लग रहा है सोचने में. So I think this all exercise is very important during the IPCC level. That you should take tax seriously and be very confident and have a good grip in this subject, I would say. Yeah, so moving on to the next question and keeping in spirit with the name of our channel, Inside Angle. So the next question is a little offbeat. So any of the three of you can answer this question. I would say, what was your most embarrassing moment during your class at inter level? Anybody?
So this happened in DT class. मतलब मैं इतना क्लास में कुछ बोलता नहीं था. In none of the classes I used to speak aloud. So what happened was, it was very childish. So he wrote 69 on the board, and I was like telling everybody that he wrote 69 on the board, and the teachers saw us doing that, and from the back benches वो सब लोग चालू हो गए कि oh. It was very childish, but was so in the moment. At least the front rows and everybody heard that.
Okay.
And what were the repercussions, Akshay?
Nothing. He did not say anything.
Good for you then, except for the embarrassment part maybe. But I'm sure you are happily recollecting that memory today.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so I'll go next. One thing is I wasn't able to attend inter classes physically, so I'll have to tell an incident which happened in my foundation coaching. So what happened was there was one question which was given as given in the QA test, and none of us could answer it. And so we thought, even are the options wrong or what is there? So in the next class, we started to discuss that with our teacher. So the question was about there were letters, and we had to give the we have to compute the rank of the word again in the permutations. So the letters were given, and so my friend started asking the sir, "Ki what is NAAGI?" Something like that. She started asking the question. Then I had something to give, to give an input. So I did not focus on the fact that she was spelling out the word. I started saying the word Nagi. And me being non-Gujarati, I did not understand what it meant. And the whole class was laughing. Even the teacher was laughing. I had to wait for 2 minutes for them to explain me.
Okay.
So I'll go next. Now, what happened once it was happened in the audit class actually. I sir was telling a joke. So I was actually drinking water at the moment, and I actually laughed in such a way that I spilled all the water onto the hair of the girl sitting in front of me. Literally, the water went like a foot ahead into all her hair, and the entire class laughed for like 5 minutes. It was actually very weird, but then nothing happened. Actually, she didn't do anything.
You got away with it very cheaply, Akshay.
Yeah.
Not kicked out of the class.
बनने भी बड़े-बड़े कांड किए हुए हैं.
Actually, this is a key takeaway for our audience that AIR ones are also like everyone else, and they also have unique experiences to share.
Yeah. Okay, I think that sums up our interview. We had some really great insights about this subject from this really great and intellectual and bright people. I hope audience find this video useful and important. And yes, wish you all the best. All the best for your preparations, all the best for your life. And thank you all for giving us your precious time and dedicating this time to the future students and future chartered accountants. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Before
Thank you to the viewers as well. Do like, comment, and needless to say, do subscribe as well. Thanks, a special thanks to Brahmer, my co-host, and obviously, needless to say, heartfelt gratitude to all three of you, Akshat, Akshay, and Shreya, for giving your precious time and for giving your perfect insights on how to prepare tax. Thank you so much.